Why do we spend our entire lives chasing pleasure without ever finding satisfaction? How can you be rich and still miserable? How can people with nothing be so happy? Can we ever find true peace? Imagine arriving at an isolated retreat center deep in the wilderness, far from civilization. You surrender your phone and your car keys and you take nothing but a small bag of clothes to a simple cabin. You're here with a group of total strangers, and over the next 10 days, you won't be allowed to speak or look at anyone. No reading, no screens, no music, no exercise, no coffee, and no leaving the compound. You'll eat twice per day, and for the rest of the time, you'll be doing the most difficult kind of work there is. You're here to come face to face with the deepest source of pain and suffering you've ever encountered, yourself. This is Vipassana. Since the dawn of human existence, people have faced the same problems. Pain, loss, and insecurity have always been a part of life as we know it. It seems to be an inescapable fact of life. Everything we love eventually falls apart and dies. There was once a young prince known as Gautama Buddha. He lived about 2,500 years ago. He was born into tremendous luxury and comfort, but despite all of that, he became obsessed with finding the cure to human suffering, and he left all of that luxury to journey into the wilderness and uncover the secrets of reality. He realized that no matter what we do, pain cannot be avoided. Humans have always tried to escape pain. We label it as bad and we struggle against it. And that struggle against the uncomfortable feeling is what's known as suffering. The Buddha also realized that pleasure was always temporary. As humans, we cling to the pleasures of the senses, pleasurable food, material possessions, sexual experiences. But the harder we cling to them, the more it hurts when they inevitably dissolve through the course of time. Buddha discovered from the time we're born to the time we die, we're perpetually dragged between craving pleasant feelings and avoiding painful ones. And this craving and avoiding is the one true source of all of our suffering. Imagine burning your hand on a hot stove. As human beings, we're conditioned to believe that the hot stove caused our suffering, when in fact, it's our reaction to the pain which creates the suffering. In much the same way, relationship breakups, financial hardship, physical problems, everything you consider to be the source of your pain in this life on the outside is actually only a problem because of the way you react to it. So after decades of searching for the solution to human suffering, the Buddha made a solemn vow to sit under a Bodhi tree without moving until he'd set himself free from the cycle and reached enlightenment. For 49 days he sat without movement, and on the 49th day, it happened. The Buddha saw through the illusion of self and directly experienced the truth, that we're nothing more than awareness having a human experience, that all of our misery is a case of deep attachment to things that always disappear, and by learning to observe the experience of life without reacting to it, we could all eventually find the true ultimate source of peace which lies within all of us. He'd rediscovered a long-forgotten meditation technique, Vipassana, which means true perception, to see reality just as it is. Known to the ancients as the key to enlightenment, this practice had been lost for thousands of years and had now found its way back to humanity through Buddha's experience. He began to teach it throughout India, and it spread rapidly to millions of people. Eventually it found its way to the neighboring country of Burma, where it was practiced exactly as taught by the Buddha. Meanwhile, in the rest of the world, within a few generations, Vipassana slowly became diluted with other religious practices and it lost its power. In the small nation of Burma, Vipassana was passed down without alteration for generation after generation for 2,500 years. Finally, in the 20th century, when a young Vipassana teacher decided to leave Burma and share the practice with his sick mother in India, word quickly spread about its healing power, and within a decade, Vipassana had again exploded across the world. Today, there are hundreds of Vipassana retreats held every year across the world, and thousands of people book months in advance to be instructed in the practice and have their lives radically changed. So what is this mystical technique? How can sitting still for 10 days permanently alter your life and enable you to let go of the deep-rooted knots of your mind? In order to understand why it's so powerful, imagine your entire body as an extension of your mind. Now, we're taught to believe that we think and experience only with our brain, but in reality, your entire physical body is like a supercomputer which holographically stores all of the memories, emotions, and experiences you've ever had non-locally in every single part. So the mind, your thinking, perceiving, and deciding part, is woven into your entire physical body and all of the sensations you feel there. In other words, when you feel a painful sensation in your physical body, The conditioned habit of your mind is to react and try to resist the pain, which creates the suffering. When you experience pleasant sensations in your body, for example, someone treats you like a king or a queen, your mind reacts by clinging and it begins craving more of that sensation with greater intensity. And that starts a cycle which can never be satisfied. When doing Vipassana, you sit still with your eyes closed and you turn your attention to these naturally occurring sensations inside your body. As sensations begin to arise, you practice observing them without reaction. No matter how painful or how pleasant they are, you simply observe and breathe. As you sit in silence for hours with no distraction and no outside stimulation, all of your demons begin to surface. You're faced with boredom, sadness, fear, restlessness, self-resentment, physical pain, past guilt. You're completely alone with yourself. Now, for many people and for me personally, this was the most difficult experience of my entire life, to be completely and utterly alone with oneself. As you do this with repetition again and again and again, your awareness becomes clearer and clearer, your mental perception becomes sharp and focused, and your subconscious mind begins to open up and release its stock of unresolved past experiences from your entire life. Regretful decisions, ungrieved loss of loved ones, missed opportunities, traumas, anger, unforgiveness, pain that you cause for others and yourself. These karmic memories manifest as a continually changing cocktail of different sensations in your body, sometimes painful or pleasurable, other times simply raw feelings like heat, tingling, or pressure. Now, as this arises and as you continue to observe these sensations and memories without reacting to them, something unexpected happens. These past experiences begin to resolve themselves, allowing your body and mind to naturally cleanse itself and let go of lifetimes of emotional and mental baggage. As you practice this, you train your mind to respond to all of life's experiences with peaceful detachment, simply watching them as they rise and as they fall. By sitting there with strong determination, hour after hour, you realize that all of the experiences of life are essentially the same. Information that comes in through the senses creates different sensations in your body that stay for a while and ultimately disappear. Nothing stays the same. It all continues to change. No matter how painful your experience is, it's ultimately going to pass. No matter how much pleasure something or someone brings you, this too will one day be gone. Although this is something we might know intellectually, by going through the process of Vipassana, you begin to experience this truth of impermanence directly. It becomes real to you. And many people experience profound realizations, spontaneous physical and emotional healing. Years or lifetimes of conditioning melt away under the light of awareness. For me, I had the experience of finally being able to accept the vastness and the emptiness of the universe, outside and within. I finally accepted that I am, in one sense, completely alone, and that there's no real I. Now, this is something I'd spent so much of my life running from and distracting myself from, and I was finally able to face it and come to terms with it. Your perception becomes so clear and subtle, and you actually begin to experience and feel what your body truly is. A sea of subatomic particles jumping in and out of existence 1 trillion times a second. Pure, continually changing energy with no boundary between you and the rest of the universe. As you leave the retreat, this new perspective comes with you, and the way you see life takes on a whole new meaning. The old things that used to trigger you, the car tire going flat, your kid throwing a tantrum, your boss or your mother-in-law, these are experienced as mere temporary sensations, vibrations created in your body that rise, stay for a while, and disappear. Every problem or pleasure being nothing more than a small ripple on the ocean of your ever-changing experience. You begin to live with true perception of reality, not as you want it to be, but reality as it is. Your relationship with pain and pleasure becomes one of observation instead of identification, and you become free from the human game of suffering, which, if practiced continually, ultimately leads to the experience of enlightenment. So ask yourself this question: how much peace do I really have in my life? How much am I kidding myself? Am I truly happy? And can I ever be truly happy by chasing things that are on the outside? Or am I willing to do the real work of turning within and going to the source of true peace, true harmony, and true happiness? If you are ready to face reality just as it is, go and do Vipassana. It's completely donation-based, and there are centers all over the world. It may be the most life-changing experience you ever have.